Hi everyone, I'm Jandey Shackelford, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to sew non-traditional items together. Here are some items that you're going to want to gather up before beginning today. If you don't have Tyvek or asphalt saturated paper, you can find these materials at Home Depot or any sort of hardware store. Or you can use any paper that you have laying around the house. So the first thing you're going to do before you start to sew anything is you're going to get all of your materials and kind of play with composition and how you want the piece to look. Currently with this, I'm just using a piece of small paper. I'm using the asphaltum saturated paper as well. I just ripped a piece off of that. And then I also used my razor to cut out a piece from the Tyvek. This is a fairly small composition, but think about how large these can actually be. You can keep growing the scale of them if you want. So thinking about composition, this for me is a little too square, so I'm just going to rip it and play with how I want these materials to lay together. Now that I have the paper in a composition that I'm happy with, I'm going to take those pins and pin the paper all together. That way, while we're sewing, nothing's moving. You can also use double-sided stick tape or glue if you have that laying around the house. As I was playing around with composition, I was making sure to be intentional with how the paper was sitting on top of each other. This will become important as you stitch and explore how these pieces can attach to one another. So for this particular piece today, I cut a piece of embroidery floss that I am going to be using. I'm going to thread the needle and put it through the eyelet hole. When I'm hand sewing, I prefer to have double the amount of string. So at the end, I will knot it, and it helps me not pull through the paper. And it also just looks a bit cleaner for me personally. Now to the fun part. We get to sew all of these materials together. To start off with, you might want to make your holes more exact, and so using an awl is going to really help with that. After I have all my holes punched, I'm going to go through the back of the piece where you can see these holes through the back with my needle and pull the string through. I'm then going to go through the other side, pulling the string through the front to the back. I'm going to continue this stitch throughout this entire line, but there are a lot of hand sewing techniques and stitches that are fun to learn, and you can even experiment with your own type of stitch work if you would like. And now I've completed all of those stitches for that particular line. For this next stitch, I'm going to be doing it intuitively rather than having everything planned out before beginning. With this stitch, you can play around with how long and how short you want those stitches to be, how close and how far away you want them to be. It's a really fun way to make marks. Now I've completed the majority of this line. Whenever you have the two pieces of paper or materials secured together with the thread, you no longer need to keep those pins in, so go ahead and take those out. For our final side, I am going to go ahead and take out this last pin. Everything is secure onto each other, and I'm going to take our awl again and make a series of holes along that line, and it's going to go through each piece of paper, both the white Tyvek and the asphalt saturated paper. Now with our string and our needle, we're gonna find those holes on the back side of the piece and bring it back through the front. The idea with this stitch is so that way there is a continuous line going all the way from the bottom to the top of that line. Once we come back out through the front, we're gonna loop around that previous hole and then go back down through the same hole that we just came out of. All right, now we're gonna go through the last hole, doing the same stitch that we've done previously. So now we've completed that line that we had started. Once we go through the last hole, we'll turn our piece around and tie the end up. What I like to do is to go through the back of a stitch and make a loop, and instead of going through the front, I go through the back of that loop. I like to pull it nice and snug and then snip it with scissors.